I don't know how much more time we got with Bob.
How much time you got, Bob? You got 5-10 minutes left?
Another 5-10 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Fred. Mine will be last.
Okay. What would you, if you had PBC stable, what would you have done differently? Or
Well, I don't want to get into that. That's not fair.
Okay.
I mean, Al's done a good job. Would we have done things differently? Of course. If he had our situation, would he do things differently from the way we're doing it? Sure. With Eddie? Sure. With Golden Boy? Sure. Everybody has their own way. And I'm not going to criticize what he's doing. I'm not going to criticize what Golden Boy or Matchroom is doing. We all do it in our own way.
Got that. DB, go ahead. I want to ask some historical questions at the end, but go ahead, DB.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. I was saying, since it's Black History Month right now, I want you to tell us what Black History Month means to you. And secondary to that, I would like for you to tell us some of your favorite Black fighters without including Ali or Sugar Ray Leonard.
Let me tell you what Black History Month means to me. When I was a young man and I left the U.S. Attorney's Office, I met the great football player, Jim Brown, who introduced me to Ali. And Jim also introduced me to Martin Luther King and Jesse Jackson. And I played a role in Jim's Black economic movement. And so I've been part of it since that time, since the 60s. So I believe that things have gone slowly. They could go faster. And it's never been any question which side I'm on. And as far as which Black fighters I've had, so many. In addition to Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard, marvelous Marvin Hagler, who I picked up mid-promotion, and I did every one of his title fights, and we had a marvelous relationship. Tommy Hearns is a tremendous fighter. I have never, ever looked at fighters by what their race was or anything. And I think that's pretty well true with all promoters.
Sure.
I mean, the idea, that some say Black fighters can't draw. Well, that's bullshit. Black fighters have been the biggest draw in boxing ever since Joe Louis. Look at the biggest draws in boxing, whether it's Floyd Mayweather, Muhammad Ali, George Foreman. They're all African Americans. So people get these ideas. Now, obviously, if you have a African American fighter, with certain exceptions, they will be less popular in a Hispanic environment than a Hispanic fighter like Chavez, because people like to identify with somebody who looks like them. So a Hispanic fighter won't draw as well in the urban environment as a Floyd Mayweather. Just plain. But each ethnic group has its strengths in all communities. And that's how I've run my business. I couldn't care less what a fighter looks like, what ethnic group he belongs to. I mean, really makes little difference to me. And if you talk to all the fighters that have fought under the Top Rank banner, they'll tell you the same thing.
Shout out to Case Nasty 0102. You got to follow up to that, because I want to ask him about MLK now. I'm very interested in your meeting with MLK. How many times did you meet him?
About 3 times.
Oh man. Well,
but I really got to know him, and I got to know Jesse was like almost like a minor figure in when I met MLK. I met Jesse when Jim Brown took me to a hotel in New York to introduce me to MLK, and young Jesse Jackson was sitting in the room.
Mm, mm. What's the
So I go back with Al. You talk to Al Sharpton about me.
I will at some
I
point.
know all of these people.
I know. Tell
Andrew
us
Young.
Andrew Young. Okay. And he's
Yeah.
how about so what was the conversation like with MLK? Or was it just passive? Was it nothing?
No, it was a lot social, but also, I mean, you couldn't meet with him without understanding his sincerity
Wow.
and what he was doing. He was a
Mm-hmm.
great, great man,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had the privilege of meeting all of them. I knew I had a couple of few meetings with Elijah Muhammad.
I was gonna get
when
there
I first
because
started with Ali, and the only one I didn't ever meet was Malcolm, because he had been murdered before I got involved with boxing.
And you know the funny thing, today is the 56th anniversary, February 21st, 1965. That's why I want to ask you. Tell us about we'll end on this.
I didn't know Malcolm at all. I never met him.
But people always want to know. I know I've asked you this in an interview, but half the boxing world is listening now. How did you get Top Rank with the Nation of Islam and your meeting with Elijah Muhammad to coexist the units to create it? And how and when did Top Rank separate from the Nation of Islam?
We never separated from the Nation of Islam. What happened was we had a company called Main Bout, which we formed to promote Ali. And part of the deal was Herbert Muhammad was not the manager at that time of Ali. The Louisville sponsoring group was the manager. So we started the company where Jim and I owned 50%.
Jim Brown.
And Jim Brown,
Okay.
yeah. And Herbert Muhammad and John Ali, who was secretary at the time to the Nation of Islam, owned 50%.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did fights with Ali, and then Ali couldn't fight because of the draft situation 3.5 years later. And then when he came back, Herbert said, start a new company. I'm the manager. I can't be involved. And we started Top Rank. And our first fight was December of 1970 in Madison Square Garden, where Ali fought Oscar Bonavena.
So main bout dissolved and no longer was the Nation.
No, it dissolved because once Ali couldn't fight, there was no business for Main Bout. So it dissolved. Yeah. We did what we did. Main Bout did the Chuvalo fight, the Cooper fight, the Brian London fight, the Mildenberger fight, the Cleveland Williams fight, the Ernie Terrell fight, and the Zora Foley fight. And then Ali was suspended, with that terrible thing they did to him. And so for 3.5 years, there was no Main Bout. And then when Ali came back, Herbert couldn't be involved because he was, at that point, the manager of Ali. Mm-hmm. So we formed a new company.
So no one that was under Herbert Muhammad owned a piece of Top Rank. You've always been the sole proprietor.
That is correct. That is
okay.
correct.
Okay. I've always wanted. People have always asked that, because people say you stole Top Rank from the Nation of Islam. I've heard that.
No. It had been dissolved in effect for over 3 years, and Herbert specifically asked me to start a new company. Mm-hmm. And my partner then was a guy named Fred Hoffheinz, mm-hmm. who was the son of the guy who owned the Astrodome. And a number of years later, Fred became mayor of Houston, and he said he couldn't be involved in a boxing promotion company and sold me back his interest.
What